Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to part 24 of Let's Play Pillars of Eternity. In the last part, we were in the CopperLane district of Defiance Bay, and we were, just going to have a quick look around, see if there's anyone to talk to, anything to read. I think the first, we've got two things we need to do in this city. One of them is the Never Far from the Queen. Go to the Temple of Wadaka, and the other is the fragments of scattered fish. Faith. Fish sounds funnier, but we need to go to the records archive of Defiance Bay. So I think we're going to try do the Adir quest first, just because it's going to be the well, it's a side quest, isn't it? So I think side quest should be done first. Can I? No. Okay. Let's have a check. Let's have a look in here. See what's in here. You never know. Might be something interesting. Probably not. Gotta check anyway. So it's a bar, and seems to be a lot of people we can have insight into. So let's do the insight. You see a fire burning slowly on the side of a winding road, unmanned. There seems to be no fuel, no wood or oil for it to consume, no hay or twigs. Despite this, it roars, crackles, wails in the wind. It takes you a moment, but you begin to notice the figure in the flames. Its shaking hands cradle a young face, molten red tears, marring skin the color of coal. The boy cowers, flame coating him as he howls his knees to his chest. In the distance, a man approaches, faceless. He extends a hand to the frightened child, who considered it warily before taking it. The flames die down, leaving his limbs and settling on his head like an obedient pet's. All tears dried. They walked together, fire and death, hand in hand. There we go. You see a wizard playing illusions in a town square, fingers plucking colour and sound from the air and weaving scenes of beauty and fright. A crowd of onlookers gasp and cheers, enthralled with the display, all but one boy, standing off to the side, mouth agape. Green eyes are pale with wonder, vision after vision playing out before him, and something inside the boy clicks. Without warning, he bolts, disappearing into the crowd, pushing and shoving desperately. The mage finishes his show soon after, a giant silver dragon descending through the crowd and 1,000 stars exploding into nothingness. Collecting coins, he walks through the clapping crowd, bowing and nodding at each as he passes, until a small sack is dropped onto his hands. The boy stands for a moment before him, small and still, and begs the wizard to apprentice him. He glances at the hefty bag, weighing it and the boy carefully. Finally he nods and flicks gently at the bag, which disappears. The boy grins. "How do you do that?" he asks, but the illusionist merely winks. You see a hand, curled and bruised, staked to the floor with a bent metal spike. Blood covers the floor and blood drips from the furnishings and walls. This man looks up from the body he is crouched over to survey the carnage he caused to the family in whose house he now skulks. 4 bodies total, a woman, 2 young men, and a girl, lie blindfolded on the ground. Their legs are bound and both hands are attached to the floor with spikes. He has lifted the woman's blindfold and is currently doing something to her eyes. He pulls back a small blade and covers the eyes again, gently patting the blindfold. He stands and looks around, seemingly satisfied with his handiwork. Suddenly his breath quickens, hearing someone approach the door to the room. He bounces in place, excitement almost overwhelming him, then rushes to the back of the room, concealing himself in the shadows. From his vantage he sees the bodies are perfectly arranged, each one facing the door, welcoming the man of the house back. Arms outstretched, as if embraced. The door opens as he slowly pulls another spike from his belt, the tip of his tongue playing across his teeth in anticipation. Well, that guy doesn't sound nice at all.
Good day, stranger.
The man by the bar is nearly the size of an amura. A handle protrudes from his back, and his face is set in a stoic frown. He gives you a small nod. Here for a drink? There's a tiny pewter cup in front of him. He turns it in one broad hand, but doesn't drink from it. This is a lively place. It was found in the early days of the Dawoodian independence by a travelling scholar named Errol of Levy. He wanted a place where kith of all backgrounds could gather and hash out the issues facing their new country. He rests his elbows in the polished wood of the bar. It didn't take long for the place to fill up. Brackenbury aristocrats argued with dock workers from the gift, while soldiers wrangled with politicians. The Woodians have never been known to turn down an argument. He takes a sip from his tiny cup. What happened next? Soon, kith were coming from the farms and settlements too. He was at the door as if expecting a crowd to bustle in. This place got even more popular with the Villian sailors from the salty mast. And that was the problem. He drains his cup. No matter what people say about fair-mindedness and civil debate, there's only so much people will tolerate. Errol found himself on the wrong side of an argument with the wrong Thane, and when he disappeared a few days later, some said it was the work of that Thane. He shrugs, spreading his hand over the bar as he surveys the room. But Errol knew which way the wind was blowing. If you ask me, he skipped town, hid out somewhere, hoping for rational minds to prevail in Defiance Bay. He cracks a wary grin. If only you could see it now. I'll order some refreshments. So let's have a look at the... oh, we've already got 4 camping supplies. Everyone seems to be alright. A yellow Labrador. I mean, it's a pet. I mean, I can't not have a yellow Labrador as a pet.
Yeah.
Alright, I think we need... well, Adia wants to talk to him, so we'll talk to him first.
The dozens. Pretty sure you won't find one among them who stood within 100 miles of that bridge when the Godhammer went off. Too bad, too. Said there'd be less of them.
Why did they call themselves the Dozens? Was 12 Dwewoodians stood outside of Halgot Citadel waiting for Wadewood to cross the bridge there. They had to hold him there long enough for the Godhammer to detonate, so that's why they did it. Godhammer? That's what they call the bomb they blew up Wadewen with. Don't know much about it other than that. Anything kills a living god, guess you gotta name it. What do you have against the Dozens? Nothing serious. Nothing I don't have against a lot of folks anyway. The Dozens, they like to take things into their own hands. Gets ugly sometimes. We don't have them in Gilded Vale, but they'd be right at home here. They picked that name so they could do what they wanted and feel like it was right. Got nothing to do with honor or sacrifice. They like to invoke Magran too, when they especially want to feel right. Somehow I don't think she'd be too impressed with that lot. I'm sure she'd like to set them on fire anytime they use her name, but the gods probably got rules against that kind of thing. People hide behind symbols so they can't be questioned. The Duke's a reasonable man. Maybe while we're in Defiance Bay we can get him to force people to call themselves what they are. Don't imagine they'd have as many members if they called themselves a loudmouth sheep fuckers. Let's continue on. Good idea.
Yeah.
Right.
Huh?
So we've looked at those, so we've got some more people to spirit commune with. The miserable bastard. A woman sits by herself, spinning something on the table in front of her and watching it with furious intensity. It's about the size of a coin, and it wobbles over a crack in the wood with a metallic rattle. She snatches it up in one hand and slams the half-empty cup down on the table with the other. This is not a good time. What are you doing here? She takes a long drink of her glass. Just trying to calm down and trying to talk myself out of something foolish. Something foolish? She says nothing for a few moments, as if hoping you'll leave. At last, Kienra looks up to you, and lamplight falls across her face. A purpling bruise is blossoming along her cheekbone. There's something I need to give to my fiancé, Persnick, only he doesn't seem to go anywhere without his new friends, and they're not exactly pleasant company. Who hit you? She shakes her head. I know how this looks, but you don't understand. It's not like Persnick. It's these new friends of his. They've brought out the worst in him. Tell me about these new friends. They come into our house with their dead eyes and their black teeth. I'm not a fool. I know what it means. Personally makes me leave when they show up, but it's obvious what they came to do. Last time they came, I told them to get out, to let them have their own fun somewhere in the gift. but not under my roof. She scowls and then whimpers, her fingers tips gently probing her bruise. Swift changes you, I guess. The person I knew wouldn't have squashed a spider. I never thought he'd... She trails off, still feeling the swollen, discolored flesh. I thought Swift just made people lay around doing nothing. Grinner shrugs. I don't really know. Seems better than believing he's always been that way. Maybe we'll go talk to him. Her hand rests on the table and she clenches it into a white-knuckled fist. There's nothing more to say to him. We're finished. I just wanted to give this back to him and have a clean break. She opens her hand and a ring clatters under the table. It was his grandmother's. Even after this, I don't have the heart to sell it off. But if I go back there myself, I know what'll happen. I'll lose my temper and I'll probably wind up with another one of these. She points to her bruise. But I've heard you're trustworthy. If you give this back to him, he'll know we're done. I'll take the ring to him. She looks at you and nods. The house is just north of here. Just, please don't hurt him. As furious as I am, I don't want that on my conscience.
Yeah.
1 second, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, tickle in the back of my throat. Anyway, so we've heard talk to. Let's have a quick look through the rest of it and see how many more people we can talk to and talk about.
A simple test. That's settled.
Okay, that is considered stealing. God damn it. Let's quickly check around here and we'll... there's someone here to do, so... Right, so we'll do this guy first. Brad Furis. You see a mud-soaked clearing, rain falling to the ground in large drops. This man is lying on his back in the muck, his hands holding open the maw of an enormous steelgear that stands over him, its front paws on his chest. The heavy rain falls over them, playing counterpoint to the grunts made by the opponents. Dead Stelagar litters the ground around them, and the man's body shows signs of a difficult battle. His clothing is torn, hanging in scraps in some places. Bites and scratches cover his arms and legs. A huge gash cuts across his forehead, blood and water mixing as they run down his face and drip into the mud. It takes all the man's effort to keep the beast's jaw from clamping down. The man looks around wildly, until his gaze finally lands on a large axe laying barely within arm's reach behind his head. The rain slowly covering it with grime and muddy water. He looks at the Stelagar, and then back to his axe, grim determination on his face. His arms are shaking, and it seems he will not be able to hold the beast back for much longer. He takes a deep breath and wraps his right hand around the Stelagar's bottom jaw, and then lets go of his left hand, freeing the top of his head. The Stelagar's mouth snaps shut on his right hand as his left shoots out above his head and grabs the handle of his axe. The Stelagar grinds its teeth and pulls back, trying to free itself from his grip, blood dripping from its mouth onto his face. With a grunt that quickly becomes a bellow of pain, the man pulls his right hand down, bringing the beast's head closer to him. Swinging the axe, as he does, the blade of the weapon pierces the Stelagar's neck and it yelps, its mouth popping open as it tries to step backwards off the man. Before his mangled hand can lose grip, the man pulls and twists as hard as he can, trying to get the beast on the ground. Using the Stelagar's resistance to pull himself into a sitting position, he brings the axe down on its neck again and again, and one final time as its head and its hand seamlessly come free. The head flies from his grip as he thrusts his hand behind his back and had to brace himself as he falls. As his hand hits the ground and his full weight lands on it, a second bellow of pain erupts from his mouth. Breathing heavily, he brings his now mangled hand up to assess the damage. The little finger is gone, lost somewhere in the mud. The two fingers next to it are twisted, broken and torn, barely attached to his hand by small bits of flesh. He sighs, grabbing both dangling fingers with his left hand. He grits his teeth and pulls. Well then, that's certainly a way to deal with mangled flesh. Now, so it's these three to wait. Yeah, it's just this guy. You see an impressive gathering of wild Orlands in ceremonial dress, shaded by a copse of ancient oaks. Underneath the largest oak stand two young Orlands, hands clasped, eyes clear as they promise to care for and love one another in the joining of their clans. An Aldwyn steps towards them to speak, beard seeming to sprout from directly underneath his eyes, and declares their union complete. The jubilant Orlan clans carry the newly wedded couple away to their tent with snorts of laughter and crude jokes, leaving the older Orlan to sit alone beneath the age-old oak. He sighs, observing the scene in the distance. He whispers a quiet benediction, glad for their gladness, and melts into the tree without another word. He has seen enough happiness for one day. Interesting. And I believe there were some people to talk like this guy is. Yeah, there we go, this guy. You see a half-consumed ale slosh its way across the distance to his mouth, spilling across the stains of food long past. Glazed eyes glance at the brawl across the room, gaining further as the fight extends throughout the room. Another ale, he murmurs to the bartender, drowning his drink and turning towards the wall. He pulls a picture from his pocket, a painting of a young child, all brown hair and green eyes, and holds it above a candle. It does not burn. Ales later he begins to sing, the bar a mess of broken chairs and wounded pride, and they all listen for a moment before continuing their drinks. Svev and conversations. His ache is felt throughout the room. His sad story reminds them of their sad stories. When he finishes singing, a silence hangs in the air, palpable among the smoke and the sweat in the yeasty smell of the beer-infused exhalation. He is the first to break the silence, ordering a round of ale for the room. The general din of conversation sparks and resumes, but the mirth is now tempered with far-off memories and thoughts. Stelagar's pelt is thick with dust and moths. The plague plaque below the beast reads Maiden Falls 2682. So this is that creature that guy fought back there. That's pretty cool. So far, there's a lot of people to read about. Ooh, these people don't have anything special about them, but they have actual names.
Hail, traveler.
Ah, there's one. Two-tone Wixel. An all-in man relaxes with his feet propped up on the table, patches of dark brown skin out from under a full mane of blue-green hair. He and the all-in woman with him exchange laughs and comments with the trio at the nearby table, and he spins a dagger in his hand. His hazel eyes watch at you. You look like you've seen a night or two in the wilds. Joining us for a drink? Who are you? The name's Two-Tone Wixel. The lady next to me is Kay. We've had our fun with the expeditions, but we're hoping to enjoy a little peace and quiet, for the next few weeks anyway. A man at the next table nods to you. I'm Dreadshot Daden. This is Herdy and Ilfa. We were part of a separate expedition teams, but we both suffered loss and decided to band together. He ticks several items off his fingers. Beasts, barbarians, beerwicks. It's a dangerous time to be an adventurer, but a prosperous one too. At the next table, Daedrin raises his glass, and here's to many more prosperous journeys. Is there something else you wanted? Nope. Oh, bollocks. I didn't mean to do that again. Let's leave. So, nothing else there. Let's go check the rooms out, see if there's anything to loot. Well, this room has 2 more people to talk to, so we'll talk to those probably in the next part. We've only got like a minute of this part left. We don't want to waste too much time now, do we? 3 lockpicks in there. That's nice. Pays for the lockpicks. Lockpick we wasted downstairs. Looks like we've got a lot of people we can talk to up here, or who we can read the spirits of. And we'll start with this guy. Why not? You see a grin slide across the grin slides across the face of a man and onto the face of a woman, younger still than he. She moves closer in the tallow light, and sure and slow, tasting the anticipation on his tongue, the desire on hers. The candle gutters, sending yellow-brown light sneaking across his multifaceted eyes. She sits back now, all too aware of his luminescent horns and dust-stamped blue skin. His otherness leaves her breathless, but fascination or horror you cannot tell. He reaches across a hand, trailing the line of her jaw. Sibilant whispers snaking through the air, tempting, cajoling. Something in her breaks, and his grin slides back as he extends his tongue to lick the curve of her throat, pausing a hair's breadth from her flesh. The thing we spoke of, your husband. I shouldn't, he'd be ruined, a faint protest. The man wags his forefinger at her, tisking playfully, tracing a line with the finger down the length of her torso, causing her to writhe. He stops just short. She stops it just short. She gasps. No fair, that's cheating, she pouts, childlike. Not if we make the rules. The man winks, and he resumes the stroke. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the next part will continue on. Hope you guys do it. See you guys next part. See you guys then.